Okay, thank you very much for photos. We didn't finish. We didn't finish. Distinguished delegates, let's start our final session, please. Can I have your attention, please? Okay, let's start the process here. The Committee of the Whole considered document 28.4 on communities and livelihoods. The committee agreed to recommend the adoption of the draft decisions as contained in CRP 28.4 Rev.1 and the decision 14.200. Can we agree to adopt this recommendation? Hearing no objection, it's adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 28.5 Rev.1 Wildlife Health after referring the document to the cross-cutting working group. The committee agreed to recommend noting the key message of the activities of the CMS FAO Scientific Task Force and on avian influenza and wildlife since COP15, as contained in Annexes 3 and 4 of the document, respectively. The committee further agreed to recommend adopting the draft amendments to Resolution 12.6 Rev COP 14 to the draft decision as contained in CRP 28.5 Rev.1 and the listing decisions 14, 218, 214, 220. Can you agree to adopt these recommendations? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 28.6 Rev.1 on pastoralism. The committee agreed to recommend adopting the draft decisions as contained in CRP 28.6 and the listing decision 14 100.179 to 14.181. Can you agree to adopt this recommendation? Hearing no objection, is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 28.7 Rev.1 on light pollution. The committee agreed to recommend noting the report found in Annex 2 of the document. It also agreed to recommend adopting the draft amendments to Resolution 13.5 as contained in CRP 28.7 Rev.1 and deleting decisions 14-221 and 14-222. Can you agree to adopt this recommendation? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered Document 28.8 Rev.1 on insect decline and its threats to migratory insectivorous animal population. Insectivorous animal populations. The committee agreed to recommend noting the summary contained in Annex 2 of the document. It also agreed to recommend adopting the draft amendments to Resolution 13.6 as contained in CRP 28.8 Rev.1 and deleting Decision 14-216 and 14-217. Can you agree to adopt this recommendation? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered Document 28.9 Rev.1, Cumulative Effects Assessments. After referring the document to the cross-cutting working group, the committee agreed to recommend noting the report contained in Annex 1 of the document and adopting the draft decision as contained in CRP 28.9. It further agreed to recommend the deletion of decisions 14-204 to 14-206. Can you agree with this recommendation? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered Document 28.10 Rev.1, Infrastructure Development and Migratory Species. The committee agreed to recommend adopting the draft amendments to Resolution 7.2 Rev. COP15 and decisions as contained in CRP 28.10 Rev.1. It further agreed to recommend the deletion the decisions 14-201 to 14-203. Can we agree to adopt this recommendation? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered Document 28.11, Renewable Energy and Migratory Species. The committee agreed to recommend the adoption of the amendments to Resolution 11.27, Rev. COP13, and the draft decisions as contained in CRP 28.11, Rev.2. It also agreed to recommend the deletion of decisions 14-207 to 14-210. Can we adopt this recommendation? Hearing no objection, it's adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 28.12 Rev.1 on climate change and migratory species. The committee agreed to recommend the adoption of the draft amendments to Resolution 12.21 Rev COP15 and the draft decisions contained in CRP 28.11 Rev.1. It also CRP 28.12 Rev.1. It also agreed to recommend to take note on the findings of the expert workshop and the working group meeting as contained in Annex 3 and 4, respectively, of document 28.12 Rev.1. It also agreed to recommend the deletion of the decisions 14.211 to 14.215. Can you agree to adopt this recommendation? Hearing no objection, it's adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 28.13 have one. Conservation implication of animal culture and social complexity. The committee agreed to recommend the adoption of the terms of reference for the experts working group on animal culture and social learning and the draft resolution contained in Annex 1 and 2, respectively, of document 28.13 Rev.1. It further agreed to recommend draft decisions as contained in CRP 28.13 Rev.1. The committee also agreed to recommend the deletion of decision 14.227 to 14.230. Can we agree to adopt these recommendations? Any objection? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 28.14 have.1 on multiple systems of knowledge. The committee agreed to recommend to take note on the report contained in Annex 2 of document 28.14 Rev.1. It further agreed to recommend the adoption of the draft decisions contained in the CRP 28.14 Rev.1. It also agreed to recommend the deletion the decision 14.9. Can you agree to adopt this recommendation? Any objection? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 29.1 on the treatment of species included within aggregated families listed in Appendix 2. The committee agreed to recommend the adoption of the draft amendments to Resolution 14.19 and the draft decisions as contained in Annex 1 and 2 of document 29.1. It further agreed to recommend the deletion of decisions 14.232 to 14.234. Can you agree to adopt these recommendations? Any objections? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 29.2 Rev.1 on maintaining lists of species included in CMS appendices. The committee agreed to recommend the adoption of the draft decisions as contained in Annex 1 of document 2029.2 Rev.1. It further agreed to recommend to take note of the preliminary findings of the review of the taxonomy, nomenclature, and range states information for species listed on CMS Appendix 1 and 2 and CMS instruments contained in Annex 3 of document 29.2 Rev.1, and to take note of the assessment of migratory movements of birds for the purpose of disaggregating families under Appendix 2 of the Convention on Migratory Species as contained in Annex 4 of document 29.2 Rev.1. The committee further agreed to recommend the deletion the decision 1430. Can you agree to adopt this recommendation? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. The Committee of Whole considered document 29.3 Rev.1, taxonomy and nomenclature. The committee agreed to recommend the adoption of the draft amendments of the Annex to Resolution 12.27 Rev. COP15, taxonomy and nomenclature, and the draft decisions contained in Annex 1 and 2 of document 29.3 Rev.1. It further agreed to recommend the adoption of the change to taxonomy and nomenclature of species listed in Appendix 1 and 2 as contained in Annex 3. Can you agree to adopt these recommendations? Any objection? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 29.4 Rev.1 on species that meet the criteria for listing on CMS. The committee agreed to recommend the adoption of the draft amendments to Resolution 14.20 as contained in Annex 1 of document 29.4 Rev.1. It further agreed to recommend the draft decision as contained in CRP 29.4. It also agreed to recommend the deletion of the decision 14.235 and 14.236. Can you agree to adopt these recommendations? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 29.5 towards harmonization of taxonomy and nomenclature. The committee agreed to recommend the adoption of the draft decision as included in the annex of the document. It also agreed to recommend the deletion of decision 14.231. Can we adopt this recommendation? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 30.1, Rev.1, guidelines for preparing and assessing proposals for the amendments of CMS appendices. After referring the document to the Institutional and Cross-Cutting Working Group, the committee agreed to recommend the adoption of the draft amendments to Resolution 13.17 as contained in CRP 30.1. Can you agree for these recommendations? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 30.2, Rev.1, proposals to COP15 for amendments of Appendices 1 and 2 of the Convention. The committee considers proposals for amendments of Appendices 1 and 2 of the Convention for 40 species. Can you agree to adopt? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 31.1 have 1 on concerted actions, which recommends the adoption of amendments to Resolution 12.28 have COP14. The committee recommends adoption of the draft amendments to Resolution 12.28 Rev COP14 and as contained in CRP 31.1. Can you agree to adopt CRP 31.1? Any objections? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. The Committee of the Whole considered document 31.2, progress in the implementation of concerted actions. Under the agenda item 31.2, the committee considered reports of implementation of concerted actions for 11 species or groups of species. The committee agrees to note these reports, which can be found in document 31.2.1 through 31.2.11. Can you agree to note these reports? Any objection? Adopted. The committee considered concerted actions for specific species or group of species under agenda item 31.3 have 1 in the proposals for concerted actions for triennial 2026 to 2029. In the interest of time, I'm going to take this as a block. Found in document 31.3.1 to 31.3.16, the committee considered 16 proposals concerning the following species as group of species: chimpanzee, pan, troglodytes, straw-colored fruit bat, Eidolon helvum, Eurasian lynx and lynx balcanicus, striped hyena, Maasai giraffe, Giraffa tapirski, northern giraffe, Giraffa camelus pardalis, reticulated giraffe, Giraffa reticulata, and southern giraffe, Giraffa giraffa. sperm whales, Physeter microcephalus, Franciscana dolphin, Pontophoria baivili, Lahil bottlenose dolphin, Torzopis truncatus gephirels, Lahil bottlenose dolphin, Torzopis truncatus gephirels, Antipoden albatross, Diomedia antipodensis, fresh-footed seawater, Ardenia carnepes, Peruvian or Humboldt pelican, Pelicanus tagus, Magellanic plover, Pluvianellus socialis, sand tiger shark, Carcharias taurus, Baskin shark, Cetorhinus maximus, blue shark, Prionace glauca, devil and Martha rays, Mobilidae. The committee recommended the adoption of all those concerted actions. The proposal for the Maasai giraffe was considered as CRP 31.3.5 Rev.2. Are there any objection to adopting this list of the specific concerted action? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. So I want to say how refreshing is to see this concerted action now becoming concrete, proposed with the enthusiastic engagement of the parties involved. My thanks to the proponents for developing them. We shall now turn the agenda item 34, date and venue for the 60 meeting of the Conference of Parties. After consulting with the Bureau, CRP 34 was posted on 27 March 2026, expressing interest of the hosting of COP15. I would like to invite the government of Germany to take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Germany is delighted to offer to host the 16th Conference of Parties in 2029 in Germany. We would be honored to welcome you all in 2029 in Bonn, in Germany, the place where the convention was signed in 1979, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. Thank you.
Thank you, Germany. I'm delighted to hear your offer about the hosting of COP16, marking the Convention's 50th anniversary on its namesake city. The Secretary would like to make a remark. Do you want to make a remark, Amy, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say how grateful we are at the Secretariat for this offer and to have this offer already affirmed here so that we have certainty and also the importance of Bonn for this convention. Of course, I think everyone knows that that is the birthplace of this treaty, so to have the 50th anniversary there is really a wonderful, wonderful thing to look forward to. So thank you so much from the Secretariat and from me for this kind offer. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Amy. I would now like to propose the adoption of CRP 34, accepting the offer of Germany to host the COP15 in 2029 and instructing the Secretariat and the Standing Committee to engage to progress the planning of the meeting. Any objection? Hearing no objection, it is adopted. Congratulations, Germany. For sure, this is not the Sorry, you have to repeat everything.
Back to the beginning, Mr. Chair.
Now I invite the conference to raise any other matters of business. I now open the floor for very short closing statements. In the interest of time, I invite delegates to talk on behalf of a region or group. Let's start with parties and non-parties. Uruguay, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Chair. Distinguished delegates, Secretariat, colleagues, I am honored to speak on behalf of the countries of Central, South America and the Caribbean at this closing meeting. First of all, we would like to express our most sincere thanks to Brazil for their leadership, which has been exemplary in the organization of COP15 and their firm commitment to migratory species and their habitats. This meeting has been an example of an inclusive leadership with the inclusion of young people, indigenous peoples, and rich debates where we can share our different perspectives to work for conservation. GRULAC welcomes the results achieved at this COP, and we'd particularly like to highlight these key decisions for resource mobilization, which is an important step to facing one of the major challenges for the Convention. We are confident that these decisions will help us to have more fair and accessible and efficient actions. We also celebrate the inclusion of new species in the appendices in the adoption and strengthening of concerted actions. These decisions reflect the solid regional coordination, the collective commitment towards migratory species, their habitats and their vulnerable situations based on the best available scientific evidence. Throughout this COP, we as a region have shown our role as a constructive and proactive actor with coordinated work in key areas such as large terrestrial mammals, marine mammals, and migratory birds. We welcome the resolution on flyways and the initiative for migratory routes, IRMA, the Latin American routes. And this is an example of the synergies of other multilateral and bilateral environmental agreements for our region. In particular, we are welcome to the information on the availability of technical and financial human resources. And we are most pleased to see the results at the COP, and we hope that we can ensure it continues to work along the lines of sustainable development, and we're going to continue working together with a constructive spirit alongside the Secretariat and international partners so we can strengthen the Convention and have sustainable conservation for species, their habitats, and as a consequence, ensure a better planet for present and future generations. Thank you.
European Union, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hope the microphone works. No. Works now? It works. Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The EU and its member states are more than pleased with the outcomes of the 15th COP of CMS. We have adopted a range of important decisions at this COP which bring real, tangible benefits to migratory species and their habitats. We have seen, again, science-driven multilateral decision-making at work. It is also thanks to the dedication and the flexibility of the parties and the stakeholders that we have achieved so many good outcomes. We're happy that proposals like the European eel, taupe shark and bustard action plans or France's listing proposal for the giant otter were supported. We welcome all other additions to the CMS appendices. They enhance protection, fostering international cooperation for their conservation and help raise awareness around these truly magnificent animals. Here in the gateway to the Pantanal, our hosts fittingly highlighted the importance of wetlands and connectivity for migratory species. It was an absolute privilege that the President of Brazil honored us with his presence, demonstrating how important these aspects are to his country. We want to thank here the government of Brazil, the state of Mato Grosso do Sul, and the city of Campo Grande for hosting this COP, for their hospitality, and for sharing with us for these few days their inspiring nature. Finally, a warm thanks to everyone who made this possible, the staff of this conference center, the interpreters, the translators, the chairs of the working group, the COP-appointed councillors, the COP and the co-chairs, and of course, many thanks to Amy and her team in the Secretariat. Thanks for all the hard work on these 100+ documents. To Amy personally, thank you very much for your hard work and your dedication as the Executive Secretary of this convention, and we wish you all the best in the future. Welcome also to your successor, Andrew, as the new Executive Secretary. We're happy to welcome you all in Europe for COP16 for the 50th anniversary of the Bonn Convention. See you in Germany in 2029.
Thank you. Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. As I present this statement on behalf of the Africa Group, as we wrap up this eventful and historic COP15, Africa wishes to extend its deepest appreciation to the government of Brazil for the excellent hosting and hospitality since we arrived here in Campo Grande to date. The vibrant team of youthful volunteers was fantastic, and some of them asked critical questions in the corridors, questions that remind us we should always think of the youth as we make important decisions at this COP, because the decisions have far-reaching implications beyond our time. The commitments and resolutions that we have taken on the over 100 agenda items at this COP are as good as they are implemented by parties and supporting partners after we leave this beautiful country. We recognize the elevated levels of facing species that have been uplisted to the CMS Appendix 1. This is the inconvenient truth we need to tackle collectively to change the undesirable trajectories. We need more downlisting proposals in future COPs. That will be the real success of our efforts at various scales. Consideration of the 17 amendment proposals covering 42 species done at this COP is no menial task. Many thanks to the Secretariat chairs, translators for various chairs for various working groups for your hard work. Africa believes in the catalytic potential of the 16 new concerted actions in addition to the 11 renewed at this COP. There are vibrant, brilliant ideas and ambitious commitments therein if the means of implementation and financing mechanisms for the agreed actions are put in place. We can deliver on the targets and report positive progress in various indicators adopted under the Samarkand Strategic Plan. Climate change is already influencing migration routes and habitats across the African continent, which makes our concerted action under CMS more critical ever than before. Africa is conscious of the collective responsibility we have at regional and global level, including the responsibility of being the voice for these species and the need to continue speaking up for transboundary species, populations, and ecosystems to thrive for posterity. Connecting nature is not just a nice thing to do, but it is essential to sustain the delicate balance of our socio-ecological systems. We also encourage parties to formalize agreements and establish more TFCAs as a mechanism for effectively promoting collaboration across wildlife-rich borders, putting together the necessary institutional infrastructure and other apparatus as necessary to drive processes beyond paperwork into joint action from grassroots level to global action. Africa reaffirms its strong commitment to CMS as a science-based platform for global cooperation where decisions are guided by scientific evidence and enriched by other knowledge domains. As we close this COP15 chair, we recognize the significant progress made and the shared determination to continue strengthening implementation, including through sustainable and accessible financing mechanisms for the Global South. The aspirations of Africa under this convention, our endogenous plan, the Agenda 2063 for Africa, and various other blueprints for biodiversity conservation reflect our desire for a continent where wildlife roams wild and free, with expanded horizons beyond Africa's network of protected and conserved areas, over 8,600 plus. Africa commits to ensuring Africa's unique natural endowments are healthy, valued, and protected with climate resilient economies and adaptive stewardship. Lastly, Chair, together, Africa believes that we can make flyways better, remove barriers in wildlife corridors, innovate beyond our current imaginations to create a better and harmonious future for nature and people, pushing new knowledge frontiers and technological applications to address the pressing challenges facing migratory species in modern society. As this pioneer convention approaches its 53rd year, Africa looks forward to building on its achievements over the years and further strengthening. It remains important and forward-looking and responsive in a changing world. Warm African regards and best wishes to all.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. Now, New Zealand, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the 5 parties of the Oceania region present at this meeting, we would like to thank Brazil for hosting this meeting. We feel very privileged to experience your beautiful country with its incredible biodiversity and your amazing hospitality. The venue, preparation and organisation were outstanding. Oceania would also like to express our sincere thanks to the Secretariat, the Chair of the Plenary and the Chair of the COW, Chairs of the Working Group, interpreters, all for keeping our discussions running effectively, and of course all the volunteers here. Our region wants to take this opportunity to express our heartfelt appreciation to Amy Frankel. Your tireless work has had a profound impact on the effectiveness of this convention. We wish you well and hope our paths meet again. We would also like to thank our Sessional Committee Chair, Narelle Montgomery, for her contribution to ensuring our COP decisions are based on strong, robust and credible science, and to supporting our region. and Graham Taylor for his leadership on seabirds in the sessional committee. We want to note some highlights for Oceania at this COP. Seabirds had a very strong focus. Oceania parties are delighted with the outcome of the seabird listing proposals, one of which covers 26 gadfly petrel species, including many from Oceania. We hope you'll help us to elevate these rare and threatened species in priority in national, regional and international initiatives and cooperation to prevent these species from sliding into extinction. The adoption of the resolution on seabirds and marine flyways is another highlight. Formal recognition of marine flyways under CMS represents a significant conceptual advancement for the Convention, as seabirds face a unique combination of pressures from fisheries interactions to marine pollution to climate change. The acknowledgement and recognition of multiple systems of knowledge this week has underscored the clear value of recognising and drawing upon multiple systems of knowledge to strengthen the Convention's work, including conventional science, Indigenous, local and community-based knowledge. This will lead to more inclusive, informed and impactful conservation of migratory species globally. Two more issues I'd like to highlight. Firstly, important for our region is addressing the key pressures on migratory species, including bycatch, habitat degradation, and emerging health risks. And secondly, recognising the special circumstances and the needs of Pacific small island developing states, including effective financial resources, resource mobilisation, strengthened capacity, and streamlined and harmonised reporting. In closing, Oceania parties remain committed to working in solidarity with all parties to ensure that this Convention delivers meaningful outcomes for migratory species and future generations. Safe travels home, and we look forward to seeing you all in Bonn for our 50th birthday COP. Haere rā and kia kite anō. Goodbye and see you again.
Monaco, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le
Thank you very much, Chair. Monaco is honoured to be able to speak on behalf of the 9 non-EU countries present at this COP. First of all, we would like to express our profound gratitude to the government of Brazil for their remarkable warm welcome and the organization of this meeting. We also thank the technical teams, interpreters, volunteers for their work, and thank the people of Campo Grande for the warmth of their hospitality. We most sincerely thank the whole CMS Secretariat team for their constant commitment, professionalism, and the quality of their work. This has made for a constructive and inclusive work throughout the conference. This COP15 has brought about specific and ambitious results, significantly strengthening the protection of migratory species and their habitats. The decisions adopted bear witness to our collective desire to act in the face of environmental challenges and to consolidate international cooperation. We can, therefore, confirm that this COP is a happy COP. We must also in particular highlight the spirit of dialogue and compromise which has guided our work. It shows that we share a common goal, preserving biodiversity for the generations of today and tomorrow. Finally, we wish to fully echo other delegations in expressing our sincere gratitude to you, Amy, for your tireless commitment and your leadership over the last years at the head of CMS. Your personal commitment and your vision have contributed in a significant manner to the progress we celebrate today. Chair, the non-EU regional group leaves this COP15 with renewed hope and even more determination to continue our joint efforts. And we are looking forward to meeting again in Germany in 3 years. Thank you very much.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I wish to speak on behalf of the Republic of Argentina. First and foremost, Argentina thanks the government of Brazil for having hosted this COP and for their hospitality throughout this event. We hope that the agreements reached as a result of fruitful discussions these week, in which Argentina proactively participated, will continue to be implemented over time to achieve expected outcomes. We highlight that Argentina co-sponsored various proposals for the inclusion of species in Appendix 2, as well as new concerted actions and the renewal of certain concerted actions. In addition, we reached an agreement with Brazil and Uruguay to advance conservation of the angel shark within the framework of a regional GEF project adopted in 2025. We underscore the importance of strengthening coordination between the CMS and other agreements in force in accordance with its objective and mandate to ensure consistency across the multilateral system and avoid duplication. The CMS work, recommendations and actions must be based on the best available science and strive to provide appropriate measures for implementation in developing countries. The Republic of Argentina promotes environmental policies which are in line with the objectives of the Convention and has adopted measures to mitigate bycatch. Moreover, we have made progress in managing abandoned fishing gear and strengthening traceability, monitoring and reporting to prevent and deter illegal, unreported and unregulated fisheries. This being said, as regards the regulation of high seas fisheries management, we underscore that under the provisions of the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, the regional fisheries management organization should only be considered as one of the means available, but not the only means available, and only to the extent that they are permitted within the political and legal context of the areas to which they are applied. As regards areas beyond national jurisdiction, the conservation of species must be undertaken in consistency with the mechanisms set forth under the BBNJ agreement as appropriate. We understand that it's necessary to move away from a simplistic binary opposition between areas within and beyond national jurisdiction in documents and resolutions. Otherwise, we run the risk of blurring a legal architecture which in matters of the law of the sea requires accuracy so as not to disregard areas that are an integral part of each state and their respective rights with regard to their resources. As regards deep-sea mining, negotiations are underway within the framework of the International Seabed Authority. Therefore, CMS should avoid any overreach on matters falling under its remit or infringing on the regulations of UN CLOS or the 1994 agreement. Within this framework, our country works to promote the work of the ISA as the suitable forum for these matters, and in order to achieve a robust regulatory framework with the participation of developing states in activities in this area, while upholding the principle of resources as shared heritage of humankind and marine environmental protection. As regards gender, Argentina reiterates that it understands the term gender in accordance with Article 7.3 of the Rome Statute as referring to male and female sexes with no other meaning. In addition, Argentina recalls that it has disassociated from the Pact for the Future and considers that the Agenda 2030 and the SDGs are committed to in good faith and are made up of non-binding inspirations which each state can exercise sovereignty in interpreting and pursuing freely. On this basis, Argentina disassociates itself from all paragraphs in documents that may contain references to the Pact for the Future, the 2030 Agenda and its Sustainable Development Goals. Lastly, we request that this statement be duly reflected in the record of the meeting. Thank you very much, Chair.
Have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of Asia, we express sincere gratitude to the Chair, the CMS Secretariat, and all range countries for their continued support, guidance, and trust in advancing our shared conservation goals. We would like to acknowledge the progress made under the Central Asian Flyway Initiative, and India remains committed to its leadership role and is pleased to note that with the continued support of the CMS Secretariat and range countries, we are now moving steadily towards establishing a dedicated coordination unit for the CAF by 2026. We deeply appreciate the confidence placed in India to take this initiative forward and reaffirm our commitment to strengthening regional cooperation for the conservation of migratory species. We also commend the progress made at COP15 on important species-specific initiatives, including steppe eagle and the multi-species action plan for bustards, efforts for Sakir falcon and seabirds, which represent significant step towards coordinated conservation planning. This COP has also delivered important outcomes, particularly in advancing our work on ecological connectivity and species conservation. In this context, India is advancing conservation efforts through initiatives such as the International Big Cat Alliance, which serves as a platform for global diplomacy and cooperation in safeguarding big cats across the range. We are pleased to share that India will be hosting a meeting of the International Big Cat Alliance in June this year, and we look forward to the participation and collaboration of partner countries. Here in Brazil, the land of the jaguar, we are reminded of the shared responsibility we have to conserve iconic species across continents. India looks forward to working closely with all parties in advancing these collective efforts. Finally, India, along with the range countries in the Asia region, congratulates the government of Brazil for the successful organization of this COP here in Campo Grande, beautiful city. We extend our appreciation for the warm hospitality and excellent arrangements, and we look forward to strengthen cooperation and collective action in the years ahead. Personally, as a new member of the Standing Committee and Scientific Council, this COP has been very inspiring and new learnings, and look forward to actively engaging and working together with the CMS parties and non-parties for the one cause, that is conservation of migratory species. Thank you very much.
Thank you, India. Now I invite observers to give their closing statement. Please be mindful of the time. Yusen, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of ASEAN, I would like to say sincere thanks to Brazil for generously hosting this successful COP. ASEAN welcomes the adopted decisions, especially the adoption of the Samarkand Strategic Plan and its monitoring framework, the stronger alignment with the Global Biodiversity Framework, and the important decisions on connectivity, pollution, bycatch, climate change, renewable energy, and wildlife health, and the new listings and concerted actions for protection of marine, freshwater, and terrestrial migratory species. These outcomes strongly align with ASEAN's work and resolutions, and we stand ready to work with parties, the Secretariat of CMS, and partners and range countries to support implementation, science, and the concrete action on the ground. Through strong partnerships, we can turn these commitments into real conservation results for migratory species together. See you in Bonn. Thank you, Chair.
BirdLife, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. This intervention is being made on behalf of 20 organizations whose names will be supplied to the Secretariat for the report of this meeting. We wish to thank you, Chair, for the stewardship of the plenary sessions. We also thank Monsieur Shahi for his excellent chairmanship of the Committee of the Whole. We renew our thanks to the Secretariat, and we thank the interpreters, the venue staff, drivers, and all the volunteers who kept this event running smoothly. Once again, we thank the government of Brazil and the people of Campo Grande, and we welcome Andrew Rain while wishing Amy Frankel well. Chair, there is no room for complacency about the future of the planet. Unless we at least redouble our efforts, we will not meet the 2030 targets of the Global Biodiversity Framework. Nevertheless, we take some comfort from the fact that the outcomes of this meeting amount to an important contribution to the future of many migratory species. We have adopted strong new resolutions, ranging from seabirds and marine flyways, important marine turtle areas, conserving jaguars, and mitigating bycatch. We have reaffirmed the position of not engaging in deep seabed mineral exploitation activities as long as the outstanding information gaps on the potential impacts remain. Here in the Americas, we have mandated a historic new initiative for the Americas flyways. A new resolution of marine pollution has been adopted, and this important work stream will have our full support moving forward. We have launched a new initiative on the illegal and unsustainable take of CMS-listed species. We have strengthened our commitment to advance ecological connectivity, both on land and in water. We have prioritized the protection of seamounts from destructive fishing practices, and we have addressed the urgent needs of many beautiful threatened species by adding them to the appendices, including the striped hyena, Zimbabwe cheetahs, the giant otter, the thresher and large hammerhead sharks, and, to the delight of Harry Potter, the snowy owl. Our work does not end here. Conservation efforts must be sustained and carried forward to the next conference of the parties, if we are to ensure the effective protection of migratory species and the face of many and growing challenges they face. To all, we wish you safe travels home. It only remains to end by recalling the slogan of the conference, connecting nature, sustaining life. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, BirdLife. Now, WCS, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of WCS, IFAW, and the Amazon Waters Alliance. Thank you so much to our wonderful host, the Government of Brazil, and the State of Mato Grosso do Sul, and for the warm hospitality here in Campo Grande. We deeply thank the Secretariat staff for their tremendous work. Thank you, Amy, for your leadership and commitment to conservation all these years. We wish you the best, and you are welcome to visit any of our field sites or the Bronx Zoo anytime. But most of all, our thanks to you, the parties, for the decisions you have taken and for your commitment to the conservation of migratory species and their habitats. With implementation, these species will now have a fighting chance. Thank you for adopting proposals for thresher and hammerhead sharks to Appendix 1, striped hyena and giant otter to Appendices 1 and 2, and the narrow-nosed smoothhound and spotted sorubim to Appendix 2, among others. Thank you as well for adoption of many important decisions and resolutions. Thank you for adoption of important marine documents, including on bycatch, sharks and rays, seamounts, and deep-sea mining. Thank you for a vital new initiative on the illegal and unsustainable take of migratory species, and for renewed commitment to ecological integrity and connectivity. Significantly, and on behalf of our colleagues here in South America, thank you for your increased commitment to the conservation of migratory freshwater fish and their habitats, particularly of the Amazon basin, and, of course, the jaguar. WCS, IFAW, and Amazon Waters Alliance stand ready to continue our close collaboration on all of these issues. Of course, for the outcomes of this meeting to bear fruit, we all need resources. We acknowledge the financial constraints in today's world, but we call on those who can to support the decisions of this COP. We commit to collaborating with parties across the globe to turn the outcomes of this meeting into concrete conservation outcomes on the ground and in the water. In conclusion, farewell, thank you, obrigada, safe travels everyone, and see you in Germany.
Sorry. Thank you, WCS. Now we have Baleia Jubarte. Baleia Jubarte, you have the floor. No microphone?
Now it is. Obrigado, Sr. Presidente. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I speak on behalf of Instituto Baleia Jubarte, Instituto Brasileiro de Conservação da Natureza, o projeto Tubarões da Baía da Ilha Grande e a campanha Global Divers for Sharks. And oftentimes we are asked what CMS is about, and we have to say that it deals with migratory species, but it's mostly about courage. It's about the courage of all our governments and agencies in working towards the protection of many species that often do not have a particular commercial value and only have CMS and the people that work here to defend them against all odds. It is about the courage that the government of Brazil has shown by establishing the National Marine Park of Albardão, 1 million hectares of fully protected coastal area that will save endangered marine species from extinction and are shared between us, Uruguay, and Argentina, and other countries in the South Atlantic Basin. It's about the courage that the head of our environmental agency, IBAMA, has shown this week by regulating and severely restricting the trade in shark fins and the import of shark meat into Brazil. And of course, the courage that you, Minister Marina Silva, and your team has shown in putting together this extraordinary conference of the parties. Let's make sure that the courage that people exert here on behalf of all these species, on affirming that marine biodiversity is not fisheries, it's a heritage that we all share, that all the terrestrial species are not resources, are creatures that deserve in their own right to continue existing on this planet, and make sure that this courage inspires our governments in working at other multilateral treaties to protect this unique, fantastic biodiversity that shares the planet with us. Senhor Presidente, muito obrigado, amigo Capô. Seguimos juntos. We'll work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Born Free, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be brief. Born Free is proud to be a CMS partner NGO and to have contributed to several of the work streams we've been discussing this week. And what a week in such a beautiful location. Like all first-time visitors, I'm so impressed by Campo Grande, where human-wildlife coexistence is a daily reality, as we've all seen if we've walked in the park early in the morning, and where city planners clearly have respect for big, mature trees, leaving them to shade the cycle paths along the center of the dual carriageways, a lesson to cities elsewhere busy felling old trees to widen roads. And Brazil, not only have you been a wonderful host, your commitment to conservation has been evident in every intervention. This is of global significance. Brazil and your neighbors share the world's biggest biotic pump. Through evapotranspiration, your rainforests and wetlands send invisible rivers of water vapor around the world to fall as rain, watering agricultural land, filling aquifers, and generating hydroelectricity. This is an ecosystem service provided to the world, but the world does not pay you for it. Africa's forests and wetlands drive the second biggest biotic pump, watering not only Africa, but also feeding into the Amazonia. And Southeast Asia has the third biotic pump. Migratory species keep these ecosystems healthy, whether through seed dispersal, nutrient cycling, or as apex predators. They are the seasonal workers in the ecosystems that sustain life on Earth. The decisions taken at CMS COP15 will improve their chances of surviving to play this role in the future for their natural lifespan, but the cost of the implementation is challenging. Distinguished delegates, we in this room can do something about this. May I request that when each of you gets home, you set up a meeting with your finance minister to talk about natural capital and viewing nature as an asset class. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, now recommends its client countries include natural capital, the value of living nature, in their national economies, which makes Brazil one of the wealthiest countries in the world. The acronym PES, Payment for Ecosystem Services, is well known in conservation circles, but I urge you to use a new one, PESA. PESA is a word that means money in Kiswahili and several other languages, tunapenda pesa. But in this context, it means payment for the ecosystem services of animals. Science can now measure the value of each individual animal's contribution to ecosystem function over the course of his or her life. This concept can solve the biodiversity funding gap, and you, my friends and colleagues, can make it happen. That outcome would certainly make this a happy COP.
Thank you, Born Free. Now I invite Ms. Maria Adriana Cordeiro de Mello, representative of Brazilian indigenous people and local communities, to deliver her speech.
Thank you, Chair. Executive Secretary, representatives of the countries and participants at the 15th Conference of the Parties on Migratory Species. We, the indigenous peoples and local communities of Brazil, are traditional peoples and communities from all biomes: Amazon, Pantanal, Cerrado, Caatinga, Atlantic forest, Pampa, and coastal and marine ecosystems. And we have come to express our contribution of traditional knowledge and practices to the COP15 on migratory species. We reaffirm that we understand habitats to mean traditional territories and that this term should be included in the glossary of the Convention. We propose a space for permanent social participation for indigenous peoples and local communities within future COPs. As we understand that dialogue and decisions strengthen us in the collective construction of pathways for integration between traditional and technical scientific knowledge in the conservation of migratory species connected to our territories that sustain life. We suggest that the Convention's digital platforms include different forms of communication for indigenous peoples and local communities, so that we can broaden our knowledge and participation in decision-making processes. In an act of solidarity, we urge the parties to this convention to include their indigenous peoples and local communities in discussions and collaborations for the conservation of migratory species, starting with this COP15. We appreciate this opportunity to make our voices heard.
Thank you. Well, now I invite the meeting to adopt the report of the meeting. Comments on the daily journal published can be sent to the Secretariat. Please note that delegates will have a period of 1 month from the date of the posting of the report on the CMS website to submit written comments, corrections, or other proposed amendments to the Secretariat. Are there any objections? Hearing no objection, the report is adopted. As we come to the close of the meeting, allow me to say a few words. Distinguished delegates, esteemed colleagues, dear friends, is it both an honor and a responsibility to stand before you at the closing of this historical COP? 4 months after Belém, many of you returned to Brazil. This is not a coincidence. It's a signal of trust, of expectation, and a shared vision that the multilateralism still matters. Over these past days, you have done more than meet. You have affirmed something essential. Nature does not recognize borders, and neither can our commitment to protect it. And this convention embodies that truth in a very special way. This convention holds a unique place among multilateral agreements. It reflects a profound sense of shared responsibility, one that is, at its core, an expression of altruism in global governance. Because here, we do not act only for what is ours. We act for what belongs to no one, and therefore to all. We protect species that may never remain within our borders. We invest in a natural heritage we do not own, but are all responsible for. In doing so, we give concrete meaning to global solidarity, recognizing that migratory species transcend nations, jurisdictions, and generations. This is the spirit of the CMS, and this is why it matters so profoundly. From the Pantanal to the Arctic, from the oceans to the savannas, migratory species connect our planet in ways no political map ever could. They remind us that ecological integrity depends on continuity, on flows that must remain alive, uninterrupted, and resilient. And this is precisely what is at stake. Connectivity is not an abstract concept. It is the difference between survival and collapse, between ecosystems that function and those that fail. To protect migratory routes, ecological corridors, and critical habitats is to protect the very fabric of life on Earth. But let us be clear. This will not happen by chance. It demands political will, it demands coordinated governance, it demands cooperation at a scale of the challenge. It demands that we align policies across borders, sectors, and institutions, that we listen to science not selectively, but decisively, that we act not only with urgency, but with coherence. Because science has given us clarity, now it's up to us to provide action. And action in this convention has a name: cooperation. Cooperation between governments, cooperation between international organizations, cooperation between science and policy, cooperation between indigenous people, local communities, and decision makers. Because in the end, cooperation is not only about agreements, it's about trust, it's about solidarity, it's about shared responsibility. It is about recognizing that no country can protect migratory species alone, and that every country depends on the other to succeed. As we conclude this conference, we do not close a chapter, we open a mandate. Over the next 3 years, Brazil will work to strengthen this convention, expanding its membership, increasing its visibility, and building stronger bridges with other multilateral environmental agreements. We invite all member states to join the Pantanal Declaration, placing wetlands at the center of the global conservation agenda. And we move forward with a joint initiative among Amazonian countries to align policies, strengthen governance, and protect connectivity across one of the most strategic regions on Earth. These are not symbolic steps, they are structural. Before closing, I must recognize those who made this moment possible. To the team of the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, please stand up. And I have to say that your dedication turned vision into reality. Please, the team for the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, can you stand up? Pessoal do Brasil, levanta, por favor.
Brazilian staff, please stand up.
Of course, our colleagues from the Itamaraty, the leaders of this process with us. Thank you very much. To the CMS Secretariat, your guidance was being indispensable. And to our dear Amy, your leadership, your passion, your humanity have left a lasting legacy to this convention. As this is your last CMS COP, we say goodbye with gratitude and with a deep respect. And we like to give you the symbol of our environmental fight, the jaguar. Finally, I congratulate Germany on its successful bid to host COP16 in 2029. In its jubilee year, the convention returns to where it was born, renewed, stronger, and more necessary than ever. Brazil stands ready to seamless transition. Dear friends, what we build here must now move forward with determination, because the journeys of migratory species cannot wait, and neither can we. Thank you very much. Now I invite the Executive Secretary to make some closing remarks. Please, Amy.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your leadership, including your skilled leadership of this COP, and for your humanity and friendship. It's been a great pleasure to work together. I can't believe we are at this moment in the COP, which means that COP15 is about to come to a successful close, which also has profound personal meaning for me. As you know, it is just over 2 years since the last CMS COP in Uzbekistan. Despite this shorter than usual intercessional period, an enormous amount of work was accomplished, building on the foundations set by COP14, the State of the World's Migratory Species Report, and advancing implementation of the Samarkand Strategic Plan for Migratory Species. This COP has now adopted a strong set of outcomes, including the addition of 40 new species to the CMS appendices, changes to the CMS appendices, to advance our collective work to address the needs of and threats to migratory species over the next 3 years. In the world of multilateral environmental agreements, a sort of hierarchy has been constructed by governments, stakeholders, and as a result, within the UN system. All of these MEAs address growing pressures from human activities on the natural systems of the Earth. There is no question that CMS is one of the most important international agreements on the environment. CMS addresses the same pressures on the environment as the 3 Rio agreements, the chemicals agreements, and others. Yet it does so from the perspective of the billions of extraordinary living creatures found all over the world that carry out one of the most remarkable phenomena on the planet, migration. They connect countries, continents, and communities. They also move us, touching our hearts and our souls. The need for CMS was agreed in 1972 at the first World Conference on the Environment held in Stockholm. Recommendation 32 of the action plan adopted there states, it is recommended that governments give attention to the need to enact international conventions and treaties to protect species inhabiting international waters, or those which migrate from one country to another. The role of CMS is more vital today than ever before. One of my main goals as Executive Secretary has been to lift up CMS to its proper place in this mosaic of multilateral environmental agreements. I believe CMS is not only stronger than when I first took up my responsibilities, but it has also affected me deeply. There have been many accomplishments during my tenure at the helm of CMS, all of which were the result of collaboration among parties, stakeholders, partners, and the Secretariat. To name just a few, we launched the first ever State of the World's Migratory Species Report in 2024. A new strategic plan for migratory species, building on its findings, was adopted in Samarkand. The term ecological connectivity is now commonplace, and it is being uttered by heads of state, including by President Lula da Silva 1 week ago. 2 new global initiatives to address the top 2 threats to migratory species have been launched, one on ecological connectivity, the other on the major threat of illegal and unsustainable taking of migratory species tied to domestic motivations. CMS priorities have been firmly integrated into the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, the Global Environment Facility, and a new IPBES assessment on ecological connectivity is about to commence. We have now raised awareness on the importance of migratory species and of CMS among media around the world. Here at COP15, even without the State of the World's Migratory Species Report, we achieved significant press coverage, including over 4,000 articles in 26 languages at 1,153 different news sites across 78 countries, with potential online impressions totaling over 6 billion. Watch out, because we know some additional articles are still coming tomorrow. Finally, several non-party governments joined CMS under my watch, and our COPs are attracting a greater representation of parties and observers from around the world. Of course, there is much work to do going forward. I want to note 5 key priorities I see for CMS. First, implement the clear recommendations of the State of the World's Migratory Species Report. Second, continue to mainstream ecological connectivity and the importance of migratory species across government, the business sector, and other decision makers. 3, build a stronger, more holistic approach to wildlife management that spans the issues related to CMS, CITES, and domestic priorities. 4th, we need more meaningful engagement with Indigenous peoples and local communities. 5th, and finally, increase the number of parties to CMS. I want to close with a number of thank yous, and the list is long. but they're all incredibly important, and we need this community of CMS to have such a meeting be successful. First and foremost, to the government of Brazil, the federal government, the state, the city, the people of Brazil, and the indigenous peoples and local communities who took the time to join us here. I'm greatly appreciative of that effort. To the government of Germany as the host of the CMS Secretariat and the host of the next CMS COP, all of the CMS focal points, the Standing Committee Chair and members, the Scientific Council Chair, all scientific counselors, and sessional committee members, the COP-appointed counselors who play a special and invaluable role in our work, the many stakeholders and partners, including from UNEP and other MEAs, all of the staff here in Brazil, from the capital, from Campo Grande and elsewhere that made this meeting possible, including the wonderful volunteers, all of the technicians, the interpreters, report writers, the IT teams, the people that brought the food and the water and everything we needed to sustain this meeting. Finally, I have to save my last thanks for my CMS Secretariat colleagues. These include a number of staff who joined us from UNEP and CBD Secretariat to support the work of this COP. It is really hard to know where to start. Every single one of you has made this COP an incredible success. You are such a hardworking, smart, and dedicated, passionate, and wonderful team, and you should all be very proud of what you have accomplished. It has been a great honor and pleasure to work with you all, and I look forward to celebrating with you both here and back in Bonn. To conclude, at the end of May, I will be leaving CMS and the UN, and I will be migrating back to Washington, D.C. and the Chesapeake Bay, the third largest estuary in the world. I will surely also continue to be on the move and look forward to staying in touch and connecting with you. You can find me on LinkedIn or in the oceans where I will be diving, in the mountains where I will be hiking, in the forests and fields and wetlands where I will be birding. I have been deeply honored and grateful for the privilege to serve as the CMS Executive Secretary. Thank you.
Use this one, at least. Okay, it's okay. Now, before continues, I'd like to give the floor to Melanie.
Thank you, and I'll be very brief. As this is Amy's last UN meeting, I just wanted to say a couple of words on behalf of the Secretariat. Amy has spent almost 20 years in the UN, in UNEP, first at UNEP Regional Office, then at CBD, and now 7 years at CMS. You have guided us through 3 COPs. And Amy, this is not our final goodbye, but we have something very small we want to give you to remember this, your last COP.
So we as a team have made a customized T-shirt for Amy. So, and you have to turn it. It says, mission accomplished, my last CMS COP.
As they said me when we first met in the UNEP meeting, this is really a happy copy. Well, okay, before I close the meeting, I would remind the newly elected members of the Standing Committee to stand behind briefly for the brief 58th meeting of the Standing Committee, which will be held in the Campo Grande room. Now, I declare the 50th meeting of the Conference of Parties closed. Thank you. Have a good return.